progress. So here we are, Anthony Monteith, episode 2 of Cup of Chi. And I'm here with my friend Thanos, who is a man who's traveled the world quite a bit. We met in London, I think, about 3 or 4 years ago. And we were both on a course together that we were trying to find our way into the world of social media. Tom has an interesting story, a journey. He's been through quite a bit of a spiritual awakening in the last few years. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Thanos, and perhaps Thanos, you could give us a little brief. I know the journey is quite big for you, so if we could condense it down and give us the essence of what you've been doing, where you've been and where you are now and what you're up to.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for having me on. I always enjoy a nice chat with you, you know that.
Yeah, we've had some good chats over the last few weeks.
Yeah. So I go by many names. My full name is Athanasios, and I've been going by Tommy, Tom. Recently, I've been finding it easier to introduce myself as Thanos, so that's usually what I'll go with. Spiritual awakening, yeah. I had my first awakening in 2008. I was overlooking a really beautiful sunset while I was in Greece, and hit me like a bolt of lightning, flooded with a bunch of questions, not sure who I was, where I was going, what I was doing, just completely flooded with questions. And after that, it's been kind of series of like mini awakenings, right? I think it always unravels that way. It kind of comes in layers. And what I find interesting is that as soon as we think that we've reached a peak, you know, and we're like, this is good, this is where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. And then we get knocked down again, and like only to realize that it was just a step in the evolution process and not the actual finish line. And just over the years, just kind of living life and just being aware of the signs that life gives you, and kind of like directs you into places and people that you need to meet. Yeah. In order to continue on your evolution.
Can you perhaps go into a little bit about, because I know it's very hard to describe sometimes to people who don't really know what we're talking about, and you know, have this thing where people ask me, you know, what's it like to be psychic? Like, what's it like to see things or hear things? And it's like, okay, well, I used to scoff and used to laugh when you see these psychics online and they go, oh, you know, well, I can't really tell you. It's like, you know, it's impossible to describe. And you used to think, yeah, it's just a cop out. But when it started happening, You're like, yeah, I totally get it. It's not even like vision. It's not like sound or thought or hearing. It's just like this merging of the senses into a completely new understanding. And sometimes it's filtered through the senses. And for me, when I know there's an event about to happen or something big or some sort of connection, what typically happens for me is my vision changes. So again, like it kind of, it's like I'm looking through the world through rose-tinted spectacles, you know, like somebody just puts this beautiful pink filter over my vision, and I'm like, oh shit, here we go, something's about to kick off. So what was it like for you when you were sort of on that beach? Because I know from my own research over the years, there's been quite a few people who've ended up in the Mediterranean, or like, for example, Haru with the human design, he said he was like, you know, on Ibiza in the 80s before it was rave culture, and he had this huge download. There's another guy I follow who's up in Northern England, and he had this profound awakening in the sunset rather than the sunrise. You know, so for you, can you kind of somehow put it into words for people who are listening?
Yeah. Well, when I had my first awakening, I didn't awaken any powers or anything of that nature. So like my psychic abilities came online maybe like 2 max 3 years ago. Like I always knew that I had a really strong intuition, but because of traumas and old wounds, I would always ignore it. Not knowing which voice I'm supposed to kind of like listen to, right? But now what it feels like is basically I need to tune into something. So like I'll need to tune into a specific situation or a person or an energy in order to kind of receive a download. Maybe I'm still in the like early phases of my psychic abilities, but that's how it seems to be working for me now. Maybe it will evolve in the future. It probably will, but right now it's really. I think it's different for everyone. Like the different clairs, like clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant, clairvoyant. So what happens for me is I am a little bit clairvoyant, and it's also like a telepathic feel to me. So it's like I'll feel the energy, and I'll be able to then like put it into words. So even that is like hard to explain, right? Because it's like
it's nuts because it's like,
and it makes you sound wishy-washy, but it's really not.
No, it's like, you've got this computer that you live in, this meat spacesuit, but the operating system is different to what it's designed to do,
Yeah.
And then so you have to. I say to my patients, my clients and that, and people that work with me is, they're expecting me to be like a Matt Fraser or one of these guys who's really high up. So, and I'm like, those people were fully open, fully tuned in, fully charged from like 3 years of age, like yourself, I had trauma as a kid, nothing severe, but it was more displacement. And I think that displacement from one country to another, there's a country that I was tuning into and then suddenly displaced, that kind of slowed down the progress, and then the sort of the non-acceptance by people around me forced me to shut down, to shut down those abilities, or to kind of hide them, or to box them, put them into boxes. And then when you look back, I'm sure now, as for me, as I went on, so as you go on through your life, you'll probably look back and go, okay, when I was 4, this happened, and this makes sense why I was so sensitive. I mean, have you ever looked at the work of Gabor Mate? He's a famous Hungarian doctor who looks at trauma, and he said a lot of our behavior, the most crucial time is the first 3 years of life, and then from 3 to 7, and it can be something that for an adult, a mum and dad or whatever, is seemingly not too I can't even say the word, of no consequence, but it can actually have a huge knock-on effect. And it's not about the parents feeling guilty about that. It's pretty much about the adult that's grown up working and understanding why perhaps these gifts have come online later. But also, it's about alignment to the energy. I mean, can you imagine if you were like back, I presume you were living in Canada as a teenager, right? So imagine if you were back at high school or whatever it was, playing sports, and then suddenly next minute, you realize your best buddy who you're playing football with is going to end up with cancer at 23 or something. It's something you didn't really want to know. Do you know what I mean? I sometimes think what happens with psychic people is in the realm of other psychic people. So it almost becomes kind of like this religion, cultish kind of group of people. But they're comfortable within their tribe. And I think for what I've learned is there seems to be stages of pretty much, I'm guessing around, especially for men, sort of 30s, 40s, 50s, is every 10 years there's a huge leap. So 5, 15, 25, 35. And then there's this leap to 45 and it keeps going. So it's like this sort of upgrade. I'm not saying every 10 years, but there's a cycle. You know, you could argue 7 years for man or 8 years. But there's definitely this cycle that occurs. And I have clients coming into me now who are 42, like men and women who are 42, and they're actually now think they're having a midlife crisis, or they think that their life they're suffering with huge anxiety, but really they're going through this process of suddenly realizing, shit, I'm a super sensitive person, and I just, my ego, all my material things have been stripped away with the current climate, and I'm exposed, I'm raw. The insulation tape has been stripped away, and it's just raw energy, and they're not used to dealing with the sparks that come from that. So for you, like, how did you, I mean, I know it's hard to kind of describe again, but what was the process? Because for me, it was literally when I started doing martial arts, and then going into Qigong, it was the act of physically working with my body, with being forced to meditate in a way, not forced, but kind of that was part of the expectation of training. I started to notice, oh, hang on a minute, I'm seeing things, I'm seeing things that I know the other person can't see. And then sort of questioning that, and then realizing that all this sort of personal development that we do is just awakening these abilities that we all always had. So what was the kind of the training for you? Like, what was the school that kind of helped bring out these abilities for you?
Yeah. Like yourself, I also started in martial arts when I was about 21. I started with a very old school, traditional style and school of teaching. So we were forced to kind of like meditate and do like all these things that other schools maybe wouldn't be so inclined to do and practice. First time that I knew that I heard something that other people didn't was my old school, that it was 2 floors. So you had the main floor and then you had the basement. So I was training on the first floor with I think 1 or 2 other people. And I knew for a fact nobody was in the basement. And we had stairs on the first floor, which led to the basement. So you can hear what's going on in the basement when you're on the first floor. So I was training near the stairs, and then all of a sudden I hear hands and feet on a wooden dummy, like practicing, tuk, 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 tuk. And I knew that nobody was downstairs. So I got full body shivers. So knew at that point that I could hear things also. And then if we fast forward, my spiritual evolution was kind of put on a on a halt, I guess, because I was just kind of caught up in life and just trying to work and see what I'm going to do with my life, et cetera, et cetera. And then I met my first spiritual teacher at about 28, 29.
That's a good.
And then I met another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
enough at that stage. Then.
Yeah. You've had enough with being in the Matrix at that age. And you realize there has to be something more.
How did you realize he was your spiritual teacher? Like, what was the realization there?
Well, it first started off with spiritual readings, and the thing with readings that I found was that you can have 1,000 readings, but if you don't get to the root core of what your problem is, or what your issue is, what your blockage is, what your pain is, then I can tell you're going to be some great healer 5-10 years from now. If you don't fix what your issue is, you're not going to believe it, and you're eventually not going to get there. And so it first started off with me having loads of readings until life brought me in a way that I knew that I had to deal with my shit. So then met another teacher who helped me, started to work with reprogramming my mind and looking at some old issues and like some old traumas I had when I was in elementary school. And then it sort of snowballed into like, oh, I need to do all this healing. So then it was bouncing in between like teachers and coaches, mentors, and all this stuff to get to the root cause of what my issues were.
So we go back to 2008. You have this experience of this sudden realization. This makes sense. And then it's trying to figure out for the next few years, how do I unravel this realization?
That was agony. So between 2008 and when I met my first spiritual teacher, that whole space in there was just like stabbing in the dark.
Yeah. You know,
trying a whole bunch of things, not knowing what I'm doing, but just, like trying to get after it.
Was it full of distractions? Did you find yourself trying to be pulled back into going partying and out with the lads and chasing girls?
Yeah.
Just to kind of...
It was in and out of that.
Yeah.
It was in and out. And so it was like in and out of being in this like survival state. I need to make money in order to survive because that's how I was raised. And if you don't have money, you don't feel safe.
Yeah.
So it was in between that, trying to understand myself, wanting to go out on weekends and just get hammered and just party. So it was just a mishmash of different personalities and characters. And
what happened? Tell me this, because I remember when I turned 30, right? And I remember that. I mean, I've had a few blowouts since, but that was my last real big sort of, I'm getting absolutely twisted and mangled, out partying, clubbing. And I remember being in this club at 30 and there was all these people doing hip hop and body popping and crazy ass dancing. And I think 50 Cent was the big thing then. He'd just come on the scene and they were all giving it this, in the club. And I just went, shit, I am old. Wow, and all my buddies, a lot of my buddies are younger than me, they're we're 25, 24. And I only had a few friends who were kind of in that 30 range. And I thought, oh God, no, I need to actually get married and settle down and grow up, I mean, what was it like? So because I remember that 20, I mean, I totally identify with that 28-year-old, I totally identify with it because that for me, I had a really bad, it was in Greece actually. I had a really bad breakup with a girl that I thought, we were going to be together forever, blah. And she ended up running off with a guy that she worked with on holiday. So I came home with 7 black sacks of, the black bin liners, and I just shoved all my stuff in it, pushed it in the car. The only thing I had was a car. I had nowhere to live. So I just had my car and 7 bin liners. And I remember driving around Dublin going, it's okay. I'm going to be okay. And life just got better after that. After that huge, but definitely down the pub with the lads drinking and then going off, and I'd do martial arts, 2-3 times a week and with the boys, and it was this, I remember thinking, these lads there's no progression, spiritually. They're going around mangling each other, but they're not really, I could sense all this other stuff going on with people, So I definitely identify with that 28, 29-year-old. That's like, you're reaching that third level. You've done the first couple of levels as a teenager, and then you're kind of going through this, holding on to your past, and then having to move into responsibility. And then I know when I met you, you were really into hiking and traveling and backpacking. And do you think that was another distraction, or do you think that was spirit trying to bring you back into nature to try and get you to ground, to connect yourself? What was that about?
I think
just chasing.
I think it was.
What was I gonna say, really?
No. Do not. But they were always chasing me. But anyway, no. No. I think it was. I think it was ego driven.
Right.
Like I knew that I loved to travel and that I love to be in nature, but it never felt aligned for me to make money out of it. So my ego was trying to kind of like push that and say like, I'm going to make it and I'm going to do this and that. I'll offer this and I'll offer that. But it never truly felt aligned with who I was at the core, because I had no idea who I was at the core.
Right.
So then when you start removing all these layers, then it just kind of seeps out of you after. It's like there's no more trying to chase. Like other like aspects and like other ventures which like don't feel aligned anymore. You just know right away. So I think it was, like I said, it was ego driven, not knowing who I was and just wanting to try the next best thing, right?
Yeah. Although I do remember when we used to have those conversations in London Reelers, you'd be always happier when you were like squatting down in a river in the forest, and you always had a bigger smile on your face than being stuck with those French doors behind you. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
And like, so this is hilarious, right? I'm in my house that we just got in the middle of a pandemic, right? So anything's possible. And, we got this new couch, but I've been ground living. I've been trying to, sit on the floor and squat and be on the floor. So we got this like $3,000 set of couches, and I'm not even using them. And this is the kind of the dichotomy of being, trying to connect with your own spirit and ground yourself is physically you need to ground yourself, But I do remember we had these amazing conversations, and we then got to meet in London. So we kind of jumping about 10 years probably it's 5 or 6 years into the future from sort of the big turmoil of that pain of stabbing in the dark. Like, to me, it's like you're, when you're going from being a caterpillar to a butterfly, we assume that that process is painless, going into the cocoon, into the chrysalis. But you've got a creature that's fundamentally, completely changing its DNA,
Yep.
And we assume that that's a painless process, but actually we don't know, right? It could be extremely, horrendously painful, but then something, this beautiful, light, airy, spiritual creature appears and nourishes flowers and sips the byproduct of the flowers' nectar and stuff like that. And I remember we met at London Real, and I couldn't get a gauge on you. I knew I I knew I had a really strong connection, like a brotherly kind of connection, a fondness, kind of like I've know this guy before, there was this thing where you were kind of, you were engaging but not fully, and I think there was this distancing, and you had a completely different look. You had you were smart, like short hair, clean cut, you know, and I think, okay. And I was like, okay, I get it. You know, he's in the hospitality environment. He's got to present himself to people. And then I thought, okay, for a backpacker, he looks pretty more like James Bond than a backpacker. So I couldn't figure you out. And then I know you were busy and you were staying with friends and family and stuff like that. But I thought, okay, well, I wonder why and I wondered, was it that overwhelm of all those people, you know, and all those egos, literally, you were kind of, I'm going to engage and have a bit of fun. And I mean, you're an extremely funny person when we get together. I mean, definitely probably the world's best balancer of wine glasses on bald men heads, for sure. I have a picture of that we can share later, but
we have proof.
Definitely, I can tell you've traveled, you've had a bit of fun, you know how to party. So all those things kind of started to kind of be crushed for you, because as we got closer then to the pandemic, you were obviously looking for work and trying to get back into just making money to do something else, to travel, to go somewhere else. And then I believe you went from sort of hospitality into the idea of then traveling and working with airlines. And then that obviously got totally crushed. So universe was probably telling you, like, stop, you know, you got to sit with yourself. So I know you said to me before, and when we've had private conversations, is that COVID has been, I mean, not necessarily the virus per se, but the concept of lockdown, lack of movement, and having to sit with yourself was the catalyst for making the most amount of change. I know it was going on a few years before, but can you tell the viewers, like, what did it force you? What did it help you realize? How did it help to channel you into where you are now, which you're in Greece, I believe, aren't you, at the moment? So
I am.
Managed to, I call you an awakened traveler. That would be, if I have to give a title to this podcast, it'll be Thanos the Awakened Traveler, because you always find a way of finding those little, you have a way of finding the little loopholes, the little kind of the holes in the matrix, and then slip in, because you were in, I think, was it Costa Rica, Mexico, and then you've managed to get to Greece. So I'm quite jealous, actually. We're staring down the prospect of these passports, these electronic passports are coming. You know, so we'll see if it does happen or not. But so if you can tell, like, the viewers that the last, what have we been, 12 months or more in this kind of, to me, it's like a washing machine of emotions. And what were you doing? What were you focusing in on for yourself? And then what opportunities arose for you, and what are you doing now?
Yeah. So in 2019, so it's in the summer, I was on a 6-month program with one of my spiritual teachers, and she was teaching us all about our energetics, like chakra system, how to like protect our energy, all this beautiful, amazing stuff. She also did some healing on me. So that's where I had like huge breakthroughs with my healing and with sinking into more of who I am. And so with this one healing session I actually remember this, the structure and look of my face changed from one day to the next after I had that healing session. So it was almost like the floodgates kind of opened. Like, so it's like you had this new self was waiting on the other side of this barrier, and then the water was just accumulating on this barrier. And then once you just remove that, then you're able to meet your new self. And my face actually changed. And she even told me, she's like, you look even more manly than you did yesterday. I said, I know. So that was the first part, which sank me even more into myself. And then fast forward a little bit there, what happened was I had quit one job. I was working for this friend of mine, quit that job. I was in a struggle and in a rush to find something else, fear of not having enough money. I find this other job where they want me to be this manager of a restaurant. Went in for like 1 day of training, absolutely hated it, never went back, struggled to find something else real quick.
Yeah.
Found this waitering gig. The owner was an absolute ass, like the biggest ass I've ever had to work for.
He wasn't Canadian, was he?
No, he was, well, he was Canadian, but he was Greek origin.
No, not the Greeks.
Horrible human being. Horrible human being. Worked for him for like 2 months. He ends up firing me because I asked him if I could take an extra day off. Then it took about a month before I found the job at the airline. And I worked at that job for 1 month, and then we stopped because of COVID.
Yeah.
So in 6 months, I quit a job, refused the job, was fired from a job, and was laid off from a job.
Wow.
Within 6 months.
That's root chakra stuff right there, isn't it? Eh?
Yeah. So you can look at all that stuff and you could say, oh, I'm like unlucky and I can't find this and I can't find that. But those are major signals.
Yeah. That's called divine.
When you go from the quitting,
those are divine moments.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when the pandemic hit, I was in a beautiful state of bliss, just absolute calm. Money was coming in from the job that I was laid off from at the airport. So I didn't have any worries about money. And I was just sitting with myself, and I was sitting in nature, and I was just observing how beautiful everything was happening in nature. Nothing was moving in terms of cars, planes, or anything, but nature was as active as ever. Nature was just doing what it always knows how to do. And then fast forward a few months into this pandemic, I met this woman who wouldn't stop talking about this healing she had with another teacher. Like, she was really like adamant. So I took that as a sign. I reached out to that spiritual teacher, and she did loads of healing sessions on me. And then she taught me how to do what it is that I'm doing now, which is like energy healing.
Yeah, cool.
So that's how I was able to kind of navigate being out of the matrix.
Amazing. So it's like you start doing something that has healed you, has helped you realize your own gifts and talents and abilities. And, you know, there's been a lot of actually, one of our mutual friends, John Kempf, has been posting a lot of stuff about, you know, work, the concept of work, and that, you know, that's kind of like, it's like an industrial creation, the word work, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, work originally was like crafting or building or doing stuff to help support yourself and the family. And then it got turned into this industrial, you know, to make money for the bigger person. But I mean, I've been working for myself for a long time. And, it does bring stress. You know, you can have moments of abundance and moments of lack. But if you look at the average overall, it's pretty much the same. You know, it's just peaks and troughs according to where your energy's at. And I've got to the point in my own work now is if I'm really tired and burnt out, or I'm feeling a bit like I've done too much, start getting cancellations. Now, 20 years or more ago, if that happened, I'd be panicking, you know, cancellations, no money coming in. And now it's like, oh, thank God, I've got, 2 hours to sit down and have a cup of tea and lie down on the bench, stick some needles and just chill, so, but looking back on it, you don't appreciate those are the messages you're getting. So you were able to learn. I mean, it's a tool, right? It's not necessarily who Tom is. It's a tool that helps facilitate, like the Qigong for me and the acupuncture and the tui-na and all that. It's just a tool that helps channel what, what's really going on. And so you went through this training, you definitely changed shape. Like I can tell, and over the years, like the face has changed, even your stature, your posture, you're more relaxed, you're less rigid, you're more open. Your skin looks younger, from when we first met. And so probably there's a lot better, better quality of sleep, even though you might not be sleeping all the time, but the quality of the sleep is better. And there's more like a rosy, complexion to you. So there's definitely the heart is open, right? So, and we just had and you had some incredible, for the viewers here, picked up some amazing things there for me. I had a session with you a few months ago, and it was great because I've been suffering with sinuses on and off for the last, I think I picked up something when I was traveling in Asia about 6 years ago. Just struggled to go, but it's getting there now. I can feel, I have moments where it kind of sneaks in, but it's definitely more to do with the next progression. Like how once I get to that stage, whenever it is, then I can feel it wanting to clear, the cobwebs, as you would say to me, the cobwebs on the third eye.
Yeah.
That's just because I'm rusty. I've not been doing as much of that kind of work, I've met some incredible, I've met some amazing, I don't know if you've come across this. I've met some amazing people who are extremely spiritually gifted, but just don't know what it is. They're like, they talk to you like they're almost at your level, and you're like, but this dude has no idea what, he just thinks like people think he's a freak. I've got one friend, I'll bring him on the podcast, and he's really connected into all that stuff, but he has no spiritual practice. He's no physical, well, that's what he thinks, but really when he's out in nature, like you were, cycling, or he's running, or he's swimming in the sea, that's his, his qigong, his tai chi, his meditation, so for days, so you went through this thing, training, you progressed, you got your qualification, and then you started doing readings and healings for people. So that process for you, does that require you to go into, have to meditate, sit back, tune into the person's energy, and then kind of run through in your I suppose clairvoyant, not your clairvoyancy, but your ability, whatever that is. It's hard to describe, I know, but it's like scanning the body, going through the person's energy, making a record. And then I know you produce quite a long, sometimes a page or 2-page document for people to read. And I always felt like you're running through people, it's like you're jogging through the body going, oh, okay, have a look over there, looking in that shop window, and that needs a bit of a clean, and dust that chakra. And then you come back with what you've done, so you're like I would liken it to, cleaning out the dust and the crap and the cobwebs from the energy body. I definitely, there was one, I think it was in wintertime, you did one early this year, and I had the fire going, it was cold in this house, like we hadn't got proper heating going, and I had the fire going. And, fire is that concept of the heart, and small intestine, the heart, the pericardium, And then you just pinged me. I think it was, went in there. We had a look at and it's your solar plexus and it's all rusty. And I was like, I could feel that. No wonder I went to the fireplace. It was that need to just be nourished whilst this whole part of me had been taken out, dusted, cleaned, oiled, and then put back in, So for some people, it's quite subtle. They won't feel anything and they'll notice it a few days later. But for me, I was like, something's going on here. What's he up to? And it was fun. It was good fun. And it's fun and I enjoy it. And you've done some work on my son as well, which has been great for him, getting him grounded, a bit more grounded, and he's doing really well. We ended up adjusting his diet a little bit as well. So lots of things. And it's really interesting because I think it was to do with, how he grounds himself. And the mineral that he was lacking was salt, of course, and that's in the earth, right? All salt comes from the earth, not from the sea. So all these things have been, amazing to work with you. And I think maybe a couple of my clients might be watching this and be interested in reaching out to you. So how does the process work for people? Do you schedule them in, make time, do the work, and then feed back to them? And then how do you go about this work that you do?
Yeah, you can just private message me on my Facebook page, and we can have a little chat, and then I'll just book you in.
Yeah.
Really simple. Right now, I'm doing written readings, video energy healing, and chakra cleaning. So I am definitely a much better healer than I am a reader. There are people where I can't read as much as I can heal them.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
My core is a healer. I like, for as long as I can remember, people always have an ease with like opening up to me and like always just like spilling their guts about what they're going through with their life. And at first I just couldn't understand it. I was like in my like early 20s or what have you. That's my core vibration, is to help and to heal in any way I can. And if this modality ends up changing or evolving or anything, I will just evolve with it.
Just go with it. Yeah. I do you have that experience? I mean, we'd be in a party, myself or wife would be at a party or a gathering, and you'd be introduced to people in the party, and then they start standing really close to you, and then like, what do you do? And it's like, oh, here we go. Here we go. And I change my stance, I go into
here we go.
That Wuji posture, I go into that kind of grounding, feeling the ground, adjusting my stance.
Yeah.
And my wife would come up to me and whisper in my ear, and she goes, "Are you doing Wuji?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Is that because someone is gonna start?" Yeah, I was like, "Here we go." And then next minute it'd be like, 3 spinal operations, and they want to put a chip in the nervous system, and it's like you just, I learned to you got to be able to just distance yourself at times from that, because you need a holiday. And you need to take, I mean, for me, since the lockdown, first 4 months didn't work. It's the first time I hadn't worked for 4 months since I was about 16. So it was a revelation. It was actually an emotional struggle as well. And then from there, I just, did a lot of online stuff. I kind of worked in my own way, just doing what I could to contribute and make me feel better about me. And then and then it started to pick up. And now I'm actually only doing 3 days a week in the clinic, which is an absolute, I can't even remember. It's been so many years since I worked part-time, and clinic's doing great. It's thriving. on 3 days, so
I think I actually saw that in one of your healings where I said that you're like not going to be there as much anymore. So it's nice. I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, it's a natural process, is what you said. It's like part of what's coming next. And I'm looking around at the land, and we had that discussion for what's coming for 2022. And you said to me, you'll get this retreats going, but you have to kind of just wait it out. There has to be, a bit of a clearance of energy and a bit of more space, and we're still, this house is a gift. This house was a gift for us. I can't even begin to tell you the story of how we got it. It was just mental. So we've been just, doing a bit of painting. Roofers are coming this morning to fix the roof, some parts of the roof. So we're actually talking about money. We're running out of cash fast now for doing all the work. But then it's kind of like, okay, now you've got to stop and just enjoy the space, and then save a bit of money, and then go again, the following year. But I'm looking forward to getting back into that traveling and teaching again. I've been invited to do teaching elsewhere in Ireland, so that might come. I'm also inviting people over to do seminars here, from anything from healing to acupuncture to herbal medicine, whatever it is. So definitely there is a shift in me. It's a well-needed shift, to be honest with you. So we're on this constant, we can be stuck for a few years in a rut, and then it's a rut for a reason. It's holding.
Yeah. The ruts. Yeah. It's like, can we even call them ruts anymore?
Yeah. No.
It's like even like that word has just like shifted, because like it's and it goes back to, again, when we're in a rut, it's because like there's an aspect of ourselves which is still unhealed, I find. Because what's keeping you feeling stuck, feeling in a rut? It's a shady belief system, perhaps. It's like old conditioning, like old patterns. Once that stuff clears, then life just kind of kicks in for you again.
Nice.
Right? And then when we have these ruts now, when we're healed, it's just like, it's like decompression time, right? It's enjoying what you've worked all these years for, and waiting for the next wave to kind of like kick you into your next step in life, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I like to look at things now, just by like going with the like ebb and flow of nature, and just allowing.
That's
like
beautiful.
Not forcing so much. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
We used to force all these like next steps and our like next job, and just like thinking and like overthinking what it's going to be and this and that. And it's like, how about you just like take a step back and just allow things to unfold for you? But we've been so programmed and so conditioned that we have to go, 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 go. Like next thing you know, you're just like spending all of your money on like natural supplements because you're completely burnt out, and you have no idea why. Because you're just always on the go, 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 go.
Yeah. If you had, like, we're coming up to the hour now, so if you had any piece of advice, I mean, for people out there, this is Cup of Chi. What sort of daily nourishment? What's your go-to? I mean, for me, it's like, a bit qigong, or it's just like really nice food, or, sitting out by the stream, or just picking up the bow and arrow and throwing through doing a bit of archery. Like, what's the self-nourishment? What does Thanos do to self-nourish?
Wake up, won't look at my phone, even though it's something you still want to do. As soon as you wake up, look and see like if you have any messages. So I won't do that. Wake up, first thing I'll do is I'll have some water with some lime or some lemon, and sprinkle in some pink salt, and that's going to get me started. Then I like to sit with myself 10, 15, 20 minutes, meditate, connect with my heart, connect with my spirit guides, connect with the universe, see if there's any messages for the day. I'll do some light exercise. 5 Tibetan rites is a
nice,
really good go-to.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, and then I'll check my phone. I find that if you don't have that morning ritual, it makes it very difficult for you to stay focused throughout your day. Like somebody says on Instagram, his name is Dandapani. He's a Hindu monk.
Oh, yeah.
He says if you're not practicing concentration, you're practicing distraction. So if I'm flexing that distraction muscle from the first thing in the morning, then I'll be flexing it throughout my entire day. Yeah. And I'll just look at my energy go down and down and down and down and down. And some other self-flourishing tips. I've stopped having alcohol, like naturally. That has done wonders for my energy levels. I eat whatever grows. So if it doesn't grow, I try not to eat it. If it comes from the middle part of the supermarket, I generally don't gravitate towards there. It needs to be living, breathing, whether it's vegetables or whether it's meat, fish. And I eat intuitively. Listen to what you think and feel your body wants to eat. Don't just eat lentil soup if you don't feel like having lentil soup. Feel your way through your food. Eat intuitively. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That brings me back to some teachings I had in the past. A teacher would make me stand in the aisle and go and stand against, facing a box of cornflakes, and then turn and face, I don't know, like a ribeye steak, and then go over there and stand where the fruit section is and tell you, what are you drawn to? I think I came home with grapes, honey, and wild rice. And like, nice. That was my meal. I was like, what the hell? He says, yeah, it's what your body needs right now,
Yeah.
It was a very odd combination, but yeah, that's fantastic. I'm really enjoyed this morning. It's been a great, I feel like the last few months, we've finally kind of reached that connection with one another, that for whatever reason was designed to be that way at the time. And it's great to see the progress and the progression and where you're at, and I invite anyone to reach out to Thanos. He is available for private sessions. He offers 3 or 4 different packages for you. So you can reach out to him on the Facebook page. And I think you're also on Instagram, aren't you, as well? So
I am a little bit less active on Instagram in terms of what I do in terms of work. Yeah. But I'll give you the link to my Facebook page, and you can plug it into where you think it's think it's convenient, and
we can put it in the description below this podcast once I've got it up and everything there. And what kind of music are you listening to? I'd be interested to know before we end.
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. Music, I listen to a lot of 432 hertz, a lot of binaural beats. Really love those when I just want some downtime. When I don't want any downtime, I love Greek music. So I do listen to a lot of Greek. Still love my old school hip hop and rap, and reggae music is always one of my favorites. And then I'll also have moods of where I need to listen to that, like coffee shop music.
You're joking me. Yeah. I know.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not joking at all.
Yeah.
It's like acoustic guitar-y, like type
Oh,
of
you're definitely getting
music.
old now, Tom. You're definitely getting
Yeah,
old.
oh yeah, I know, definitely. We're like moving away from the Tiesto and from all those. But yeah,
we'll sit down for dinner here, and my wife will play whatever, popular music. She likes classical, and I'll be like, Alexa, can you play some jazz? And it's like, I haven't listened to jazz in 8, and it's like, why am I listening to jazz? And it's just whatever way it makes me feel. It just makes me feel sort of joyful and random and chaotic, and it just
I also find the wrong music drains you. And if it's on for like extended periods of time, it's like an extra thing you've got to like listen to and like process.
Yeah.
And when it's on for,
you're trying to filter it out.
When it's on for like way too long, it's like the fan on your stove. Like when you turn it off, you're like, Jesus, just quiet. So that's how I don't play music often, because it just like takes away from, it just adds an extra thing I have to filter. So
it's super interesting. I read a book a few years ago about like, where does music come from? Like if we go back, 40, 50, 60,000 years ago, and we're all camped out with our tribe, most of the time we would have been in silence apart from nature and chatting, talking, and then organizing the day, hunting, or whatever it was we were doing. And then music just arise more so in the evening, singing, dancing, drumming. A lot of drumming. Drumming is real. It's so root chakra, boom, 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 boom. It's like, okay. Very hypnotic. I got mad into the Who, not the 60s band, but HU, the Mongolian rock band. And one of my students, she was very, she gave me this great insight. She said, all those years of headbanging, you're jumping up and down and, Nirvana and giving it this. It was trying to actually get the third eye to open. So a lot of the kids when they're headbanging, it's like the music is, because you're working such the root, you're way down in that kind of like, you're actually then one of the higher chakras, you're trying to open them up. So the headbanging is like, and I thought that's a very interesting concept. And it wasn't until around 97, I came across a system called body space medicine. That's like a herbal medicine. And the teacher, the top guy there, gets his students into like a full lotus position on the floor. And then he makes them meditate. And then in the meditation, they're kind of like doing this weird kind of headbanging to get the third eye to open. I thought, okay, now that makes sense.
Wow.
And it's funny because a lot of the heavy metalers I used to hang out with were super intellectual folk. They weren't like, they were like, reading, Tolstoy and reciting, all these different things that I was thinking, God, these people are like not what you imagine heavy metalers to be. They're actually super nerdy, intelligent, very much.
Especially Scandinavians especially, where they're super into like heavy metal, and then like they'll be like touring, and like on the bus ride everyone is like reading books and like listening to like classical music, right? Whereas if you go to like the States, like everyone like in the bus is just kind of completely wrecked and like on drugs and and all that. And then you have these Scandinavian like metalheads who are just like super like posh and intellectual. So yeah,
it's interesting. It's definitely, there's a cultural aspect there too.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
anything else we want to say to the crowd out there before we depart?
Just want to say to continue working on yourselves, and just keep digging, keep digging, no matter how uncomfortable it feels, no matter how shitty it feels, how painful, how embarrassing, how vulnerable, how anything. It's just these bodies that we're in are just conduits for everything to just pass through.
Yeah.
So let it pass through and allow it and trust the process. And yeah, that's it. Trust the process.
Fantastic. So on that note, trust the process. And thanks, Tom, for being with me today. And
thank you, sir.
We'll see you in Ireland or somewhere in Europe, depending if we haven't been electronically stamped on our asses at that point. But anyway.
Yes. it's pending a whole lot of that.
Yeah, a whole lot of polarity, shall we say.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks very much. See you later, folks. Thank you.
Lovely chatting with you.
Thank you.